Today we're taking a look at the Ford C-MAX Energi. Now this is Ford's first plug-in hybrid in America. This is also the first plug-in hybrid built in America as well, since Ford is building all the C-MAXs here. Now basically what they've done is they've taken the regular C-MAX hybrid, and we'll insert a link to that video down below, and they haven't changed anything under the hood really. All they've added is a power port on the other side, and they've added an extra 300 pounds worth of batteries to this car, giving it a 16 to 20 mile range. Ford claims this is the most efficient plug-in hybrid available in America with a 100 mile per gallon equivalent rating according to the EPA. Now this car slots somewhat in between the Volt and the plug-in Prius in terms of range, and its battery is somewhere in between the two in size. The Volt has a 16 or so kilowatt hour battery, but only about 10 of that is usable. This battery is a 7.4 kilowatt hour usable battery, and the Prius plug-in has a 4.4 kilowatt usable battery. Under the hood of the C-MAX Energi, you'll find the same 2-liter Atkinson cycle 4-cylinder engine as the regular C-MAX, and essentially the same hybrid drivetrain as well. There have been a few modifications to the electronic systems, and of course there's that enormous battery pack in the trunk. Now the reason for that is because of how the Ford hybrid drivetrain works. It's essentially the same as the Prius and other Toyota products, and basically, in a nutshell, the wheels are connected to a ring gear. It's a planetary gear set. The wheels are connected to the ring gear. That's the outside of the planetary gear set. And that's also where a large motor is connected. And in this particular car, that motor is good for about 120 horsepower or so, and about 200 pound-feet of torque, as near as we can figure. Now, in the middle of this, there's the sun gear, and the sun gear is another electric motor, and the planetary gears that go around this contraption are connected to the engine via a planetary gear carrier. Now, what that really means in all of these systems is that that motor gear that's on the outside, MG2 in this instance, that's what Toyota calls it, is just about as powerful as the system output, really, in these vehicles. Now, that is kind of a complicated arrangement. It's a little bit difficult to explain, but there are plenty of online resources if you really want to know how this system works. Really, all you need to know is that this car is capable of driving this car up to 80 miles an hour electric only, and for about 16 to 20 miles, depending on how you drive it. Once that battery pack is depleted, the car reverts to a regular old hybrid system, and in this particular C-MAX, it delivers 43 miles per gallon combined, supposedly 44 in the city and 41 on the highway. Right here in the driver's quarter panel, you'll see the charging port that turns this into a plug-in hybrid. So you can see by this LED arrangement around this plug-in door, we're about 70% charged or so. Now you just press it to open it, and then you plug in your charging cable. Now the C-MAX Energi comes with a 110 volt charging cable, which is this cable right here, and it'll take about 7 hours to completely charge your battery with this cable. It takes around 3 hours if you have a 240 volt charging station that's either built into your home or available in some public charging stations. Compact cars are built to a price, and up until now hybrids have been built to a weight. And by that I mean, if you take a look at the current generation Prius and Prius plug-in, you'll find plenty of hard plastics on the inside. But unlike a compact car, you won't find any harsh seams or funky molded lines that they just didn't bother to do anything with. You'll just find cheap, lightweight plastic. Now here on the inside of the C-MAX, it's a different story. We have a soft touch dash, we have nice thickly bolstered seats, we have a lot of plastics that feel nicer in this cabin. We have a nicer steering wheel than we do in the Prius with a less cheap feeling steering wheel. We have a better quality headliner, better quality A-pillar covers, etc. in this C-MAX interior. Now that and a number of other items in the C-MAX come at a price, and that price is weight, because while the regular C-MAX is about 600 pounds heavier than a regular Prius, this C-MAX Energi plug-in weighs almost 3,900 pounds. It's only 1 pound short. Now that being said, the C-MAX interior is a much nicer place to spend your time. Front seat comfort is very good in the C-MAX. In our particular SEL tester, we have an 8-way power driver seat with a 2-way power adjustable lumbar support, and of course a tilt telescoping steering wheel. The C-MAX is full of thoughtful touches on the inside compared to the current generation Prius. We get nice knobs on the dash to close and open these air vents, something that you don't find in the Prius for some reason. We also get dedicated leg vents in the C-MAX. It's kind of an interesting touch here. The C-MAX Energi's back seats are a nicer place to spend your time than in the Prius plug-in. We don't have the soft touch door panels that we do up front. We have hard plastic back here, but these seats are more comfortable. We have a bit more legroom because of the way these front seats are shaped. Now this front seat's adjusted for me at 6 feet tall, and I still have about 3 or 4 inches of legroom left back here just because of the shape of this seat. Now even if this seat was in the furthest rearward position, suitable for a 6'5" driver that we had in here earlier, I would still be able to fit fairly comfortably in this back seat. We get a fairly decent center armrest with cup holders, of course, and because of the overall profile of the C-MAX, even sitting in this middle seat, I still have about 3 inches of headroom left in the rear, and there's no discernible hump in the middle of the C-MAX, making it far more convenient than something like the Chevy Volt. As you'd expect, a bigger battery has to go somewhere. And of course, it's here in the trunk of the C-MAX plug-in. Now, the regular C-MAX already has a slightly smaller trunk in America because of the hybrid drivetrain than the gasoline-only C-MAX in Europe. You can actually see that down here. If you look carefully in the trunk, you'll see the level of the C-MAX, the regular C-MAX hybrid in America, down here. And there's about 5 inches or so less trunk room in the C-MAX as a result of this larger battery. This loss in trunk space means that while you can still fit roller luggage like this in the C-MAX, you have to fit them flatways in the trunk if you want them under that tonneau cover in the back. You can fit them vertically like this, but then you have to figure out somewhere to put that roller cover. All in all, this car gets 5 out of 10 points in our exclusive Trunk Comfort Index, mostly because of its size. The rear seats don't recline, but they do fold flat for cargo. Now, unfortunately, of course, this battery pack is much larger than in the regular C-MAX, so instead of folding flat with the rear passenger load floor, these fold flat with, well, what the passenger load floor would be if you didn't have another 5 inches of battery in the back. That means that you can push cargo from the rear into this seat area here, but you can't push it back to the rear. There's additional storage between the hatch in the car and the battery pack underneath this panel, and we get a very small storage cubby down here with a funnel, and I'm not quite clear what the funnel's for. Charger storage is not one of the better thought out features. Instead of being in the trunk like it is in the Prius plug-in, it's here under the driver's seat in this little hatch where the charger is stored under the seat itself, and the charger connector is here under the rear passenger footwell. The C-MAX and the Ford Escape can now be had with an optional kick-controlled power tailgate. Now, it sounds a little gimmicky, but here's how it works. You just kick your foot under the car like that in the center of the rear bumper, and voila, the rear hatch opens for you. It also works to close the trunk, so you just kick again, and the car will close the power hatch for you. All Ford C-MAX models come with the My Ford Touch system, so let's take a look at that system now. The first thing you need to know is there's a home screen in this system. It's divided into 4 quadrants. We have our phone, our navigation, our entertainment, and our climate control. Now, if you don't have the navigation system, this upper right-hand quadrant is still there. It's just that it only contains the compass directions here. It doesn't actually give you any street information or any navigation ability. Over here on the phone quadrant, it's your pretty standard phone interface with voice commands, of course, and you can also voice command dialing a specific number if you don't have that person in your address book. A nice feature in the phone interface is the ability to send these canned text messages to your contacts via voice command or via the screen. The navigation interface is fairly standard. We have, of course, the choice of 2D or 3D views in this particular system. You can enter addresses manually by hitting this destination button over here and typing that address in, although the system is a little bit sluggish when you do that, or you can use the voice commands to command an address.
Navigation destination street address. In California, say the street address including the city. 6581 Camden Avenue, San Jose, California. When ready, press the voice button and then say set as destination, or say change something.
As you can see, the system is very responsive when you use the voice commands, strangely responsive actually when you consider how slow the physical interface there is for button stabbing. Over here on the climate control, we have duplicate buttons essentially because that dual zone climate control has physical buttons further down on the dash. These are really just duplicate commands here, and these are also voice commandable in the sync system.
Please say a command. Climate. Climate, say a command. Set temperature to 69 degrees. Did you say 69 degrees? Yes. Setting temperature to 69 degrees.
Over here on the entertainment tab, we have our usual infotainment interface. Over here on the left, we have our sources, AM, FM, Sirius, radio, of course, single CD changer up in the dash. We have our USB interfaces. There are 2 of them in this car. The second one would show up if there was something plugged into it. We have our Bluetooth streaming interface. We have an SD card interface. This can only be used if you either don't have the navigation system or you don't need to navigate at the moment because the nav maps do use that SD card slot. And then we have a usual composite AV video in here that will display video on this particular screen if you're in park. The system worked very well with our iPhone 5, as you can see, with or without the Apple adapter cable. It also worked well with our iPad 3, although it was not able to charge the iPad 3 because it doesn't provide enough power. Now, of course, the entertainment interface is fully voice commandable as well, as you would expect from a sync product. Play artist Madonna. As you can see, eventually it will find Madonna. There we go. Now, the system is a little bit sluggish sometimes with the voice commands. It really just depends on how many songs you have on your iPhone or your iPod. I have about 6,000 on my particular device, so it does take some time to find those tracks. You can also voice command things like shuffling. You can ask the system what's playing. You can tell the system to play similar music, etc. Part of the My Ford Touch system in this C-MAX are these two 4-inch LCDs on either side of the speedometer. Now this one on the right-hand side here is controlled by a 4-way button on the steering wheel. And as you can see, you have access to your infotainment options, you have access to your phone, your navigation system, as well as your efficiency leaves. Now the efficiency leaves in the C-MAX, of course, it just sort of grows a larger garden depending on how efficiently you're driving your C-MAX. And if you start driving your C-MAX inefficiently, then the leaves fall off. On the left side, it's controlled, of course, by the 4-way cluster on the left side of the steering wheel. And we get various drive information screens here. We have various ways of showing how much power we're using and our current average fuel economy. If we go back, we can see our current trip odometers. And you can see we've been averaging about 50 miles per gallon over the last 350 miles or so. You can see it says we have 12 miles left, and our current state is we're discharging the battery. Now, the Engage version of this little power gauge is my particular favorite, and as you can see on the left side, it shows how many kilowatts of power your engine is producing and how many kilowatts of power the motor is responsible for, and over here it shows your instant mile per gallon. Now, because this is a plug-in vehicle, we can control when the plug-in battery is used. So now I've told the vehicle to use the plug-in battery later, so it says that we have 63% of that battery available for later use. So you can see now that miles per gallon gauge has changed from a scale with a maximum of 120 miles per gallon to a maximum of 60 miles per gallon. And even though it says we are in EV mode right now, that's hybrid EV mode. So that's just sort of like a regular hybrid vehicle in EV mode. And if I press on the gas pedal a bit here, you'll see the engine will turn on to start using more engine power to give you that acceleration that you desire. When you're in the plug-in EV mode like this, the system will try its hardest to stay in EV mode as long as possible. There are a few exceptions, of course. If you press the accelerator pedal past a normal kick-down position, then it will enter regular gasoline hybrid operation. Also, if you need maximum defrosting, so if you turn on the defroster on the car, then the system will turn on the engine as well. Now, the heater in the vehicle will work in EV mode because the car does have an electric resistive heater. Now, that really does drain your battery fairly quickly, so if it's cold outside or you need that defrosting, the engine will have to turn on in order to do the maximum amount of cabin heating. In the summer, the air conditioning in this vehicle, much like the Prius, is electrically powered, so it can do that with just the battery. Ford's hybrid system delivers 188 system horsepower, and that's completely obvious out on the road because the C-MAX is much faster than a Prius or the Honda Civic Hybrid. We clocked 60 in the regular C-MAX at 7 seconds, and in this C-MAX plug-in, due to its added weight, we clocked 7.9 seconds to 60. There are good things and bad things about that high curb weight, and again, this car does weigh about the same as a brand new Jaguar XJ full-size luxury sedan, so it's not a lightweight by any stretch of the imagination. But it does mean that this car has a better ride than the Prius. The Prius can feel a little bit crashy, as can a lot of light cars out on the road, but this car feels more like a mid-size, full-size sedan in terms of ride quality, and I'd call that a good thing. Now, the regular C-MAX is rated for 47 miles per gallon city, 47 miles per gallon highway, but we weren't really able to crack 43 miles per gallon in that particular vehicle in mixed driving. In this plug-in version, due to that added weight, the fuel economy drops to 43 city and 41 highway. Now, in our driving tests here, without using that plug-in battery pack, we were getting about 40 to 39 miles per gallon, which is a decent amount less than the regular C-MAX. That's notably worse than the Prius plug-in, and that's because the Prius plug-in weighs only 134 pounds more than the regular Prius. So when that plug-in battery is exhausted on the Prius, you get about the same fuel economy as a regular Prius. The C-MAX's added weight does have an impact on handling as well. Although the chassis is still very well balanced thanks to those Ford Focus roots, you can tell that this vehicle is definitely heavier than the regular C-MAX, and it just doesn't hold the road as well. Now, that being said, the C-MAX is a much better handling vehicle than any of the Prius family vehicles. Like the regular C-MAX, transitions between electric, hybrid, and gasoline-only drive modes in this particular vehicle are probably the smoothest in the industry. They're definitely smoother than any of Ford's products in the past, and they're just a little bit smoother than any of Toyota or Lexus's current products as well. Compared to the Chevy Volt, the C-MAX Energi feels better out on the road, but doesn't hold the road as well as the Volt. That's thanks to the Volt's reduced curb weight mostly. Although the Volt and the Energi's drive systems are very similar in many ways, the Volt tries to stay in EV mode longer. It has a bigger battery pack, of course, and it also has the ability via software to deliberately cause the engine to charge that battery. They call it mountain mode. Now, as more information has leaked out about the Volt's drivetrain system, it's obvious that the engine can power the wheels about as much as this system in the C-MAX Energi does. The system just chooses not to. Pricing for the C-MAX starts at $34,950, and our fully loaded model here ended at $37,830. Now, the base price is a bit more than a Prius plug-in, and that's because we get a few more standard features in this particular model, like the dual-zone climate control. Now, at the high end, the Prius plug-in does offer radar cruise control and LED headlamps that are not available in the C-MAX at any price. Now, these are, of course, MSRP numbers, and they don't take into effect any Ford incentives, any additional tax credits, etc. in the price, because you should check with your tax advisor before you go and look into any of those tax credits that supposedly reduce the purchase price of your vehicle.